Good afternoon. It is my distinct pleasure and honor this afternoon to introduce two ladies. We'll do them one at a time, but for right now, two ladies, Marja Artamaa and Patricia Calve, who will be speaking to us this afternoon. Marja, my friend and cohort from Adyar, was born in Finland, but resides now at the international headquarters of the Theosophical Society in Adyar. And she has been a full-time volunteer and the international secretary there since 2014. She is very happy. She says that she is very happy that she knew about the Theosophical Society and Theosophy from her parents and her grandparents. So she is third generation Theosophist. Yet she decided to join the Theosophical Society independently for herself in 1978 when she was 20. After getting acquainted with a few meditation and spiritual groups that came to Finland. Theosophy provided a wide and deep worldview that made her feel at home. I think that's true for probably everyone in this room. In the field of Theosophy, she worked at various functions, starting by serving coffee at lodge meetings and at the summer place, eventually having tasks in the lodge, on the board of the TS and the European Federation. It's a good way to get involved, she says. She was the general secretary of the Finnish section from 2007 to 2015, the 8 years before she moved to Adyar. She's very happy at Adyar and really hopes that many people will come to visit Adyar. And so I will take this opportunity to say that we are now this year having a physical convention. And you can read all about that on the website that Marja, with others, but mostly Marja, I think, designed. So today, she will be talking about healing powers within and without. Who heals? Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. And thank you for the organizers and the European Federation, Kim Dew and Jenny Baker, with your staff. When I 3 years ago heard the theme of the Congress, Healing Oneself, Healing the World, I thought it was an excellent one because of the world situation. Much has happened since then that makes it even more relevant today in the world. The world needs healing. And as always, change starts from individuals. When we take care of ourselves, we can help others, and thus the world, because everything is interrelated and interconnected. Then, when I was asked to speak on the subject, I was faced with a dilemma because I don't feel very familiar with the subject of healing, actually. So, although my worldview has always been included the idea that nature heals and that it heals itself, I am still in a thin ice, if you know what this phrase means, when I have to talk about healing. Although from the morning's talk and discussion from Tim Boyd, I got a bit more relaxed that maybe I'm in the somewhat correct lines, but okay. So when returning to Finland from Adyar for a few months in early this summer, I mean in June, I remembered a book that I had received from a Theosophist decades ago in 1970s. It was an old-fashioned binding where you had to tear up the pages, you know, apart with a paper knife. I had done the tearing, but only read a few pages. Now I found the book on my bookshelf between the old Theosophical books, and I looked it to see if it could give me some support for this presentation. So I started reading it. It brought me into my thinking something different from what I had originally outlined in my mind for my talk, and which means this is a challenge for me. Now when I read the program booklet, there is a blurb about my talk. I probably had given it 2 years ago. And I thought, oh my, I read it this morning. Oh my, that was good. But anyway, I have to stick what I thought during last week's. So the book which I found was written by Yogi Ramacharaka. He was born in 1799, according to internet. But I also found that Yogi Ramacharaka was the pseudonym of William Walker Atkinson, an American writer who was very influential in turnaround century, 1890s to 1900s. And he was influential in spiritual and philosophical movements such as New Thought and Theosophy. So the book was originally printed in 1906 in Chicago, but I have only the Finnish translation from 1926. The title of the work, which I now say it from the Finnish title into English, is Healing with Soul, Force and Spirit. Nothing more, nothing less. So probably the English version is Science of Psychic Healing. The work is a kind of a guide or introduction, not to healing only others, but also healing oneself. The principle being in practice. If the title in Finnish translation would have included the word psychic healing, I probably would not have picked it, because my understanding of psychic is related to some kind of nerve system and a little bit of unbalanced mind. But unless studied or discussed on the subject, one can have an incomplete perception, as I did have. I mean that without study, like with Theosophists, we do study together, the prejudices which you have, they may change. You can get a wider view. The psychic can remain wrong in one's mind unless you open it, what it does mean. It can be wrong, of course. As well, languages may include different meanings to words. For example, psychic in some extent means clairvoyant and supernatural, which are not approaches in this healing book, which I take at the background of this talk. Well, my observation while reading was that it actually talked much about mindfulness in different words, in the words of early 1900s, or actually must be 1800s, because he was born 1799. But whoever wrote down his thoughts, I don't know. Nowadays, a lot is known about mindfulness. Its methods are widespread and effective. Mindfulness has also been the subject and much referred to at the School of the Wisdom sessions, together with meditation. Healing, as I speak here, is not about medical healing. I think that is pretty obvious. The basic idea is that healing is universal energy, open to all if used correctly. The view is that the energy that heals does exist, if only we can transform or tune ourselves to its frequency. According to Ramacharaka, healing takes place at the cellular level in the regeneration of cell vitality. That is, to bring about a change in cell consciousness, cell life. I think it's pretty logical. We are not talking of a miracle. All true healing results entirely from an application of natural laws. And the power employed is as much a natural law as is electricity. It's not coercion, not forcing. One thing follows another. Somewhere emanation begins. Natural law, consequences, something comes from the real source, from within. Now, healing oneself. We can find self-healing to be 3 levels. First, physical or pranic healing. Second, mental or thought power healing. And third, spiritual healing. Let's start with the physical life force healing. The well-being of the body is based on the laws of nature, as if you are what you eat. That's quite common expression. On a physical level, we know the very basic requirements, which are proper nutrition, eat well, proper amount of water, drink enough water, fluid, proper breathing. It's very essential in yoga and relaxation and exercises. And exercise enough, meaning walk more, pointing to myself, cleanliness, and enough sleep to reach the deep sleep during your own hours. We know the importance of these for overall health. But changing habits requires a decision, an internal decision to change when there is such demand for health. For example, I know that I should walk more, but why can't I make myself do so? That's the question to me, and I just have to make my inner conviction that I just started. I don't think about it. Well, that's okay. So the key word in physical healing is revitalizing or restoring life force or life energy. I wonder if life particle is used in some theosophical literature. Prana is a level of this physical aspect. If the life energy is weakened when you are tired and vitality is gone, it can be helped to recover or restore, taking care of the basic elements of healthy living. Simply said, stop and listen to your body and let it repair itself. It is mindfulness of the body. There are techniques for that, deeper than pranic healing. I don't go to those. Now the second aspect is the importance of thought power, mental healing. In healing oneself, attention can be directed through an inner call or invitation. So I don't go much about this healing or by thought. Everyone can ponder whether it is true that man is what he thinks in his heart. Man is what he thinks in his heart. So think well and good about yourself and others. Now, a third aspect, healing with soul power, is about affecting on the cellular level, or more correctly, the self-consciousness. It necessarily involves the power of thought and will. Life force healing also includes healing with the power of thought. Nothing is excluded or only that. If there is translation going on in Spanish, the next one is not there. But so I think that perhaps it is good to mention what soul is in the Theosophical concept. Very briefly. The concept is that soul is a vehicle of consciousness, a tool in intermediate levels of consciousness of astral, mental, even of buddhi. HPB called buddhi a spiritual soul, and Atma uses that soul. So soul is not an entity, it's a kind of tool. So the main point in this soul force healing is having a clear and pure sense of connectedness and awareness of the cell mind, that such exists. The view of soul healing is that the cell is woken up to its regular activity. It is not the method that heals, but the consciousness that is awakened by the method. As earlier mentioned, it is to bring about a change in cell consciousness in the cell's life. In every aspect, healing oneself should not involve forcing. This is worth repeating over and over again. Like meditation does not work by suppressing thoughts or forcing the mind to a particular state. Very much all is about listening to your body. It should be like letting healing happen on its own with compassion in the background. Now coming to the third aspect. There are, by the way, aspects in between those, which I take only these three, which I learned. So metaphysical or spiritual healing is related to the view of oneness, of a higher life behind everything. Metaphysical means beyond the physical. But in general terms, it is the science of being. Metaphysical is the science of being. By the way, we had 3 months meditation sessions, 1-hour sessions by Venerable Ananda Olander, arranged by the School of the Wisdom every Friday. And his theme was keep on being. I think that's very, very good. Keep on being. Now, metaphysical healing is a form of healing arising only from the actual reality behind appearances. In other words, this means control of the lower by the power coming from the higher consciousness. The power of one life is always there, always available, existing. We can say that it is one, birthless, deathless, omnipresent, omnipotent, of which man is a drop in the ocean. Ramacharaka writes the following view, my translation: to heal at the level of higher consciousness is to let the power of spirit manifest through mind, permitting the mind, giving health, strength, and life to the object body, so that it becomes more fitting temple of the spirit. In other words, the higher vibrations of the spiritual mind have an effect. It is not the man who heals, but through man, the higher consciousness works. Now the healing the world, the laws of nature are universal. Everything is in a constant oscillation everywhere in nature. Everything is in a constant state of vibration. There is no rest in the universe. Paradoxically, man is seeking for rest, but the universe is in constant restlessness or movement. And why we seek relaxation, and we need it, I think because the rhythm is not in line with the universal energy, let's say so, very high idea, but still the balance is disturbed. So we need to relax to get the balance in being in balance with the overall energy when it ever is possible. No, although a great impressive stillness is reflected in the starry sky, when we look the vast sky and we see the stars, we sense, we can feel and sense it as a movement which is still. I mean, we can sense it as a stillness, but still the whole universe is in constant movement. But that movement which we realize in our consciousness is how would I say, that the universal consciousness is so vast that in our consciousness we cannot kind of reach it. We cannot experience it in an unchanging and eternal way in our own consciousness and soul. Yet the work of the universe happens in and through incessant vibrations, constant in-breath and out-breath. The force, the universal vibrations, is incessantly acting on matter and causing the phenomena of life. Our bodies are subject to this law, as other forms of matter are as well. As the universe breathes, so do we as a microcosmos in the macrocosmos. Breathing and vitality are a huge part of the idea of healing and getting healed. When man, meaning humanity, finds equanimity with the universe, or more modestly with the laws of life, he heals the world. Humans are undoubtedly part of nature, but the world's nature is suffering. The nature of the world is suffering. Man is also suffering. But as comes to nature, it is self-healing up to a certain point, which scientists say has already been exceeded by human activity, meaning that we use the natural forces more than the nature can produce. And this is very alarming for our humanity. Therefore, healing and getting healed into a good actor or agent for the world is a priority, so that the right actions can be found to heal the world. In the beginning, I mentioned having read the book to support my talk. I looked at how it ends, because sometimes books and articles have a meaningful conclusion at the end. This book ends with a prayer or mantra, from which I quote only the last sentence because the mantra is a bit long. So it is, "Make me a worthy agent for thy power and use me to serve good." At your service. Thank you.